Now available in paperback and coming to Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, Dark Succubus. The man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Dark Succubus in paperback or pre-order on Kindle Unlimited today. One of my viewers wanted to know what was my progress with the ISIS graphic novel. I'm going to give you guys an update of the ISIS graphic novel along with a sneak peek of the SJS Direct 2020 catalog. Now, when it comes down to the ISIS graphic novel, I've raised enough funds on Patreon right now to pay for the E-Steam No Good Deed backup story. Now, this story is 9 pages, and I have enough money to pay Bill Walko to do the art for the E-Steam No Good Deed story, but I'm still trying to raise funds to pay for the 51 pages of the main story, ISIS All That Glitters. So I'm still trying to raise funds to pay for the pages of the main story, but the backup story is paid for, and I might possibly contact Bill about doing the backup story sometime later this year. And I also have managed to finish several of the books of the SJS Direct 2020 catalog. And the first book that's been finished is John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. This is going to be the third book in the John Haynes series, and in this one, John Haynes takes on a man who is an irresistible force and an immovable object, and a man from his past who was featured in the first chapters of The Man Who Rules the World. Now, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, the story is complete. The story is in the middle of its second draft as related to editing, and I'm almost getting ready to start the third draft of John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. And from the looks of things, it may have to be either the lead-off book for 2020, because it's the first book I have finished and is nearly edited, and I've already contacted Josh Howard about doing a cover for John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, based on the 1960s Avengers TV series. I saw an image of John Steed and Emma Peel that exuded strength in masculinity and femininity, and I thought it would be a positive image to see John Haynes and E-Steam posed like John Steed and Emma Peel from the classic 1960s Avengers show, showing that strong positive image of black masculinity and black femininity working hand in hand together. I've also contacted Mike Williams about doing a cover for John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose as well, and this cover would be a homage to Luke Cage, Hero for Hire number 14. So I want to do 2 covers for this book. I know it's not usually done with paperbacks, but I thought maybe I would do 2 covers and do something very interesting, because this book has a lot of action, it's a lot of fun, and people love the John Haynes character, and I want to do something special for them in offering 2 different covers, and I thought people might want to go for that. Or even if I do get the art from both artists, I might just go out here and make one a pinup in the digital version and the paperback version, and do again in each book. So each book you'll get both pieces of art for either the cover or a pinup, and the digital would get both covers as well. So I'm thinking about doing something in that line for that book. And for the second book that I finished, ISIS, The Main Event, in this story, the goddess next door steps in a wrestling ring, and she's going to be wrestling in this fictional Dangerous Divas of Wrestling, where she's helping the Greek goddess Nemesis in her road to redemption. Now, this story was inspired by all of the wrestling shows I grew up watching, from the rock and wrestling era of WWF to Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, to WCW in the late 80s, to the NWO period of the mid-90s, to the Attitude Era, and all the way to Ruthless Aggression. I took all of my knowledge of pro wrestling and I put it in this story, which is a turning point for the ISIS character and completes the Nemesis story arc, which started in ISIS: The Ultimate Fight, where we started to lay the character transformation arc for Isis out, and it continues the storyline that was followed up from Ultimate Fight to Power of the Princess. And main event is the story that is going to be a major turning point for the character. And I've already finished that story, and this is going to be one of those 100-page Isis stories. So I'm letting everybody know in advance it's going to be one of the longer ones. And right now I'm getting ready to not only edit the first draft of Isis, the main event, and I've laid out the pages for Isis, the main event, but I've also started doing sketch work and model sheets of the villain Umbutra, the she-beast from the bowels, and I also have to do a sketch of Nemesis, the rival of Isis in the Isis series. Now, Umbutra I have based on TNA and now AEW wrestler Awesome Kong. Umbutra the Beast from the Bowels is inspired by Awesome Kong, so that's one of the things that influences her physical appearance, but her internal character is a little bit of Grace Jones, who was one of the inspirations for the voice of Umbutra, and her intellect is coming from Bane. So I took your Awesome Kong, Grace Jones, and Bane, and I created this Umbutra character, the she-beast from the bowels, who's going to be the major threat to Isis and Nemesis in the main event, which is the main event for the character. So this one, I wrote this one to be a fun, action-packed story where kids can learn a lot about wrestling and the world of wrestling and the business of wrestling, and get an understanding of all the things that wrestlers go through as they're dealing with their personal lives and the things that they deal with in the ring. So this one is, again, the whole story is finished. I've just done the page layouts, and now I'm doing the editing on the second draft and really getting things together, starting to get things together. And it's a little behind what John Haynes, the Man with Nothing to Lose is. John Haynes, the Man with Nothing to Lose is nearly almost there. So that one is almost done. Now, the third book that I'm working on right now is related to the SJS Direct Universe, and this one is a vampire story called Eternal Night. Now, Eternal Night deals with the origin of Lilith Graves, who was featured in Isis Night of the Vampires. And this one kind of ties into Spinsterella, and we see a cameo from Matilda Crowley in the story, and it shows how Lilith became a vampire, and it takes us further into the vampire world of the SJS Direct Universe. Moreover, we get another look at the Black Goth subculture in this story, and this one I'm having a lot of fun writing because I get to write about two things I like to write about. One is African American fantasy and horror. The other thing is the Black Goth subculture. So this one, I finished plot point 1, and I'm in the middle of the second act of the first draft of Eternal Night. And Eternal Night is a lot of fun, but the main reason why I'm really doing the story again is because I want to show the vampires in the SJS Direct Universe that we saw in Night of the Vampires, Bride of Dracula, and Escape from Transylvania. And I also want to explore some points that Josh Howard talked about in one of his live streams. Now, Josh, when he was promoting the Indiegogo for T-Bird and Throttle #2, he gave me the idea regarding spirituality and vampires, and this was something I explored in Isis Night of the Vampires and the Isis Bride of Dracula and Escape from Transylvania, and I wanted to go further in depth as related to the whole spirituality aspect in relation to vampires, and I wanted to talk about how vampires are in relation to the living God and all of the things as related to God and creation and spirituality. I really wanted to explore that because I wanted to explore what would motivate a person to become a vampire, and I wanted to explore what people would drive them to become vampires, because a lot of times we look at it from the case of it being some sort of curse, but I wanted to show how vampires have a role as related to spirituality, and I wanted to show how your vampires are sometimes, in some cases, making a compromise because some of them actually want to live in sin. Some of them want to be undead because they don't believe in God's gift of salvation, and how some of them want to go out here and have this eternal life on earth, and instead of wanting to get the promise as related to God in heaven. So what I wanted to show is how some of these vampires are willfully and intentionally walking away from God and His promise and His gift of salvation. And I wanted to explore some of those concepts because a lot of people think, that people became vampires because they wanted, that they did that because it was something that happened to them as a victim. But when I looked at and explored Dracula, here was a man who made compromises with the devil in order to get this power. And with Eternal Night, I wanted to show how there was a whole community of people who wanted to do this, and they wanted to follow the devil, and how that's how they became vampires, and that's how we got a community of vampires, because these people want to go out here and they want to have their pleasures right now. And with the Lilith character, I wanted to show how her beliefs in how she didn't believe in God led her on this road, because again, we are born in sin. So I wanted to show how her being born in sin and how her not understanding her relationship with Christ took her from the road of salvation to the road of the eternal night, and show the darkness that people wind up wandering in, and how they wind up in that whole darkness situation, far away, separated from God. So I looked at what Josh was talking about in that live stream a couple of months ago, and I really wanted to expound on it, because I do with characters like John Haynes and Easteen. I explore a lot of things as related to God with these characters and the relationship with God. And with the vampires, I think I did a fairly decent job showing how the vampires are as related to spirituality overall. Now, the fourth book I am working on right now, which is in the early stages, is The Black Man's Survival Guide. And this book I'm writing because I see so many black men winding up getting jammed up, like your Bakari Henderson, who was murdered in Greece because he didn't understand the unwritten social rules for being a black man in America and abroad. Men like your ASAP Rocky, who got locked up in Sweden, and many other young brothers who are still out here, and they don't understand these unwritten social rules because their fathers never taught them the unwritten social rules for being a black man and surviving in the world as a black man. And I'm going to try to present these points so that black men can understand how to navigate and survive in the world, because these black boys aren't being taught male life skills. In this book, I'm going to go over what you need to do if you are racially profiled in a business, what happens, what your rights are if you are encountering police, what your rights are if you're going out to a business and they harass you, and how to carry and conduct yourself so that you can avoid dangerous situations and putting yourself in dangerous situations. Because a lot of these black males these days, they are out here, they don't understand the unwritten social rules, and this is costing black men sometimes their freedom, sometimes their safety, and it's putting a lot of brothers at risk. And these black boys, they need to be taught these valuable male life skills. I wanted to do this book because I hear about all of these horror stories that are going on as related to black men out here, and I want to be able to give them a survival guide so that they can understand what the world is as related to them, how they need to conduct themselves in the world, and why they need to understand they are behind enemy lines. Because most of these black boys, they have been taught all of this rainbow crap, and this rainbow crap is leading to many black boys winding up in body bags, winding up in prison, and then wondering why they have been placed in these situations. So that's a book that I'm also working on for 2020. And the final book I'm trying to work on is the Easteen book, and I'm still torn between what plot I want to use. I have 3 stories I'm thinking of doing. One is where Easteen follows up by taking on one of the witches that I talked about in Witches of Eastland. Another story I'm pondering doing is one where Eastine takes on her past self, who is transported through time, which is going to be a follow-up to Eastine, The Sands of Time. And I have another one that I'm pondering doing with Morgan Le Fay called The Magical Murder Mystery, which picks up on points that I left in Fairy Tale. So I have 3 stories that I'm thinking about doing, and I'm still wondering which one I want to do with Eastine. So I haven't even done the outline for that one yet, but that's also on the 2020 catalog, and I'm hoping to get that one out soon. But right now, I have the John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. The cover concept is ready, and I'm still trying to get that taken care of. The ISIS, the main event, I'm halfway through the draft part of that. I mean, doing the editing, and I'm also now starting to do concept work, and I'm studying the Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell match to see how I want to, because I really want to see Bill Walko do the cover for that one, where it's Isis and Nemesis and Butcher on top of the steel cage, like Hell in a Cell. And I also am still working out Eternal Night, and I would love to have Josh Howard do the cover for that one, because he gave me the idea for it, so I would love to give him a chance to do that cover if he ever wanted to do that. And I'm also now working again on this Black Man Survival Guide, and I'm hoping to get the 2020 catalog rolled out in March or April of 2020, and I'm still working feverishly hard to get these books out. And I want to get Eastine No Good Deed out there. I'm going to see if I can get it taken care of. I mean, I have the funds to do it, but I really want to make sure I get more money to do more pages, because you just don't want to give an artist an incomplete, story, or tell them, oh, I want you to do 1 or 2 pages. You want to be able to pay them for all the pages. So the ISIS graphic novel, I'm still hoping to get that out sooner rather than later, but I can do that with your help with the Patreon. If you donate to the Patreon by clicking the link in the description box, or the PayPal or the Cash App, the faster I can get that graphic novel out to you. I would love to get that graphic novel out to you, but I'm also working hard to get these books of the 2020 catalog out, and I'm hoping that you guys pick up the books of the 2019 catalog, Isis, All That Glitters, Eastine, Goddess of, and John Haynes, Dark Succubus, and pick up on the 2019 books before you pick up on the 2020 books, because I have a lot of great stuff I want to share with you, and I can only keep sharing that with you if you keep buying the work. And I thank you all for continuing to support the work, and I'm hoping that you learned a lot about the books that are coming out, and I'm hoping that this builds up your anticipation for those books. You can pick up the books of the SJS Direct 2019 catalog, Isis, All That Glitters, Eastine, Goddess of, John Haynes, Dark Succubus, and the books of the entire SJS Direct catalog by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. I wouldn't be able to put all of these books out here without your support, so I thank you all in advance for your support, and I'm hoping you pick up the books of the 2019 catalog and the 2020 catalog when it comes out next year.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.